vast the size of buses, single ears of corn fit to feed entire villages, enormous grasshoppers trained to serve as expedient mounts. America's Great Plains were once home to these and divers other outsized aberrations that spoke to a promise of plenty which had driven generations of expansion. But as cracks began to appear in this long-cherished myth, these images of prodigious produce and gargantuan game would fade into obscurity, odd relics of a peculiar moment in time, stubbornly survived by the illusion which begat them. Today we'll be looking into the whimsical world of the tall-tale postcard, a decidedly quirky manifestation of a false and dangerous belief, a prime example of the arrogance that monsters, both frightful and farcical, have always served to warn us against. I'm Tyler Martin, and this is Monsters from the Id. Throughout our history, human beings have achieved remarkable feats of progress to further the heady goals of civilization. The more time has passed, the more quickly these leaps and bounds have come, to the point that we rarely give a second thought to major innovations that would have astounded our relatively recent ancestors. And in the earliest years of the last century, a confluence of such developments would result in some of that era's most inspired silliness. With the advent of automobiles, the United States Postal Service quickly became a more efficient operation than ever before. At around the same time, companies like Kodak were beginning to churn out simpler and more affordable cameras, making amateur photography all the more accessible to the masses. As a consequence, the golden age of postcards began. Of course, the aim of any postcard is to sell a given locale, to make it look as interesting and inviting as possible. So when it came to depicting rural areas most noted for such things as agriculture and fish and game, some artists found a distinct advantage in getting clever. In this case, getting clever consisted of producing ludicrous scenes which bestowed outlandish dimensions on ordinary subjects, making monsters out of the mundane, and creating a light-hearted illusion of plenitude where, in truth, little was to be found. To achieve the desired effect, photographers would join two or more separate images depicting setting and subject, the latter being cut out and placed on the former. They would then photograph the resulting combination. While simple in principle, creating an effective tall-tale image was not necessarily an easy process. A successful product required a discerning eye and considerable compositional skill. Journeymen like William H. Martin, also known as Dad, and Alfred Stanley Johnson Jr. came to be recognized as masters of the craft, producing scads of off-the-wall scenes and raking in substantial profits. The exaggeration postcard would flourish until the First World War spurred further advances in technology and industry, which would relegate these entertaining creations to pop culture obscurity. But the story doesn't end there, for the very progress that birthed and subsequently abandoned this amusing bit of kitsch was the product of a stubbornly held optimism that, in hindsight, has proven untenable. The communities represented by so many tall-tale postcards were founded amid the westward expansion of the United States, which was fueled by the assurance that nature would always provide limitless resources to meet the wants and needs of humanity, the type of plenty depicted, with tongue-in-cheek, in the exaggerated images themselves. Termed the myth of superabundance, this idea has existed in some form or another since ancient times, and even during the heyday of the tall-tale postcard, its weaknesses had begun to show. By placing blind faith in this fundamentally flawed concept, we have disrupted and decimated entire ecosystems and brought desolation, famine, and extinction to numerous lands and species across the globe, oblivious to the long-term negative effects these irresponsible actions have upon ourselves and the planet we call home. Of course, with the passage of time, we have become more aware of the strain put upon the earth by relentless consumption and exploitation. This has become a matter of great concern, spurring many to advocate for a major shift in humanity's outlook and much greater efforts to bring ourselves into harmony with our environment. But humans are obstinate creatures, and for all our righteous posturing, it would seem we have grown too fond of the comforts of civilization to truly change course, and this folly will surely one day be our undoing. While it is natural to look on them with amusement, even the frivolous monstrosities we've seen today can serve as a reminder of the self-justifying fallacies which have driven us into this desolate corner, but also of the wisdom that no matter how serious things might get, it's always important to smile. As always, thank you for joining me. I'll see you next time.